Yellowstone Season 5 Part B Rip and Kayce's potential conflict about running the ranch addressed by Luke Grimes. Yellowstone star Luke Grimes addresses Kayce and Rip's potential conflict about running the ranch following the show's Season 5 return. Yellowstone Season 5 Part 2 began by revealing the death of John Dutton, Kevin Costner, off-screen, opening a hole in leadership for the ranch that Rip Wheeler, Cole Hauser, begins to step into. This comes with Beth Kelly Rayleigh seemingly having the most power over the family's heritage, something that could lead to greater conflict as the final episodes continue to develop. Speaking with Screen Rant, Grimes teased possible conflict between Kayce and Rip in Yellowstone Season 5 Part 2, especially since they haven't always seen eye to eye throughout the show. However, the actor does say the events happening in later episodes are bigger than their squabbles, forcing a whole host of characters to join forces. He also expressed interest in the pair teaming up because of how much their teamwork in particular would contribute to the series. Check out what Grimes had to say below. So far, the start of Season 5 Part 2 has seen the characters in Yellowstone grieving John's loss, forcing them to try putting the pieces of the ranch back together following his suicide. At the end of Season 5, Episode 9, Rip returned from Texas, with Beth running crying into his arms, signaling previous confirmation that he will be taking a more prominent leadership role in the ranch. However, it's unclear what this means for Kayce, who may begin to feel more responsibility for the ranch following his father's death. Even so, Grimes' statement makes it sound like, even if Kayce and Rip disagree with one another, they'll eventually set aside their differences in the wake of John's death. Whatever threat is coming to the family and the ranch in future episodes, they'll seemingly have to set aside their differences in order to protect their home and the people around them. While it's still unclear if this will connect to the upcoming spin-off, The Medicine, or a continuation of the main series, it does emphasize how this current story arc will likely end with the pair on the same side. Given John's sudden death, we think it would be better for Kayce and Rip to set aside their differences to help make sure the ranch is stable into the future. While this will no doubt prove a challenge for them, especially given the conflict that will undoubtedly crop up, allying with each other might be the only way to save the Dutton family's heritage. As Yellowstone continues to develop its final episodes, the threat teased by Grimes will no doubt show up to push the characters closer to each other. As Yellowstone barrels toward its explosive conclusion in Season 5 Part B, the tension simmering beneath the surface of the Dutton family is beginning to boil over. But it's not just John Dutton who's facing impossible choices. It's the men who stand to inherit the legacy he built with blood, sweat, and sacrifice. Rip Wheeler and Kayce Dutton. For years, Rip has been the steel spine of the ranch. Loyal to a fault, weathered by a lifetime of hard-earned brutality, Rip knows Yellowstone better than anyone, maybe even better than John himself. Meanwhile, Kayce has always danced at the edges of the Dutton world, torn between duty to his family, love for his wife Monica, and his own dreams of a simpler, more peaceful life. In recent interviews promoting Season 5 Part B, Luke Grimes, who portrays Kayce, finally addressed the swirling rumors. Would Rip and Kayce come to blows over who should run the ranch? His answer was thoughtful, emotional, and just cryptic enough to stir the fan base into a frenzy. "I think," Grimes said, pausing thoughtfully, "we're seeing these two men wrestle with what loyalty really means. To the ranch, to John, to the idea of the Dutton legacy itself. But they see the future differently, and that's where the conflict really comes from." Seeds of division. From the earliest episodes, Rip and Kayce have had a quiet but unmistakable tension. Rip, the adopted son of Yellowstone, has sacrificed everything, even his name, to protect the land and the family. Kayce, the biological son, has often resisted the very same binds that Rip willingly embraces. Rip feels like he's earned the ranch, Grimes explained, but Kayce feels like he's bound to it, even if he doesn't want to be. As John Dutton faces mounting pressures from politicians, land developers, and his own mortality, the question of who will take over Yellowstone grows louder. To Rip, there's no question. He's the one who's bled the most for it. To Kayce, the burden feels heavier than a noose around his neck. The upcoming episodes hint that John will force the issue, pushing Kayce into a corner where he must decide whether he's willing to take up the mantle, even if it costs him his marriage, his soul, and maybe even the fragile peace he's built with Monica and their son Tate. A fight for the future. When asked if Rip and Kayce would come to actual blows, Grimes smiled mysteriously. "You'll have to watch," he teased. "But I'll just say, not all battles are fought with fists." Insiders hint that the conflict won't erupt in the usual Yellowstone fashion, not with bloody barnyard brawls or gunfights under Montana's endless sky. Instead, the true battle will be more heartbreaking. A war of ideologies, loyalty, and love. Rip believes the ranch must be protected at any cost. Kayce questions if it's worth losing everything else. "It's like Rip's married to the ranch," Grimes said, "and Kayce is married to Monica. Their priorities aren't the same, and that's dangerous when you're fighting for the same piece of ground." Beth's role in the feud. Making matters worse, Beth Dutton. Beth, fiercely protective of Rip and harboring complicated feelings toward her brother, is poised to pour gasoline on the fire. In trailers for Season 5, Part B, Beth can be seen whispering to John, "He'll choose her over us. He always has." Grimes reflected on this dynamic as well. Kayce and Beth have always had this underlying resentment. Beth sees Kayce as weak for wanting out. Kayce sees Beth as cruel for wanting to trap everyone in a life of pain. It's messy. When Beth inevitably sides with Rip, it may push Kayce into a decision he can't walk back from, one that could forever sever his bond to the Yellowstone. Rip's sacrifices come due. Fans have long speculated whether Rip's loyalty would eventually come with a price. Grimes suggested that this season we might see Rip question, just briefly, whether it was all worth it. Rip's whole life has been about doing what John needed, no questions asked. But if the ranch ends up in the hands of someone who doesn't want it, that's gotta feel like a slap in the face. In private moments, viewers will reportedly see Rip struggling with deep, painful emotions. Does he fight Kayce for control? Does he walk away in disgust? Or does he double down, drawing a line in the sand that neither brother can cross without devastating consequences? A tragic parallel. Grimes pointed out a haunting parallel that will become clear as Season 5, Part B unfolds. Rip and Kayce are mirroring John's own greatest heartbreak. John's lost so much because of the ranch, his wife, his kids, his peace of mind. Now it's happening all over again with the next generation. Ultimately, Yellowstone has never been about winning. It's about surviving long enough to lose everything you love, and still fighting like hell to keep what's left. Final words from Luke Grimes. Wrapping up his interview, Grimes offered a bittersweet glimpse into Kayce's heart. Kayce loves his family. He loves the land. But he also knows the land demands sacrifices he's not willing to make anymore. Rip's already made them. He's all in. And that difference, that's the real tragedy. As the Yellowstone landscape grows bloodier and more unforgiving, Rip and Kayce stand on a collision course set in motion long ago by love, loyalty, and loss. And when the dust finally settles, only one of them may be left standing on the ashes of the dream John Dutton built.